Hey, what's going on, guys? John Shea here from the No Shame Income Vlog. And today I'm going to be talking about a very important topic I think most entrepreneurs have dealt with at some point in their life, right? This is failure. Failure is a big part, I think, of entrepreneurship that a lot of people, maybe when they're coming into this stuff brand new, they're just learning for the first time. There's a lot that can happen when it comes to starting a business, right? So what I want to do today is kind of reflect on an article that I spent a few hours writing on my blog. I'm going to leave a link for you guys to check that out here in the description. And more or less what I want is, if you guys are brand new here in the channel, maybe you're someone that's a returning visitor, be sure to throw me a thumbs up on the video. Be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell notification. And if you guys have any questions or comments on this video, be sure to go back and leave me a comment. So let's talk about what we're going to be diving into here in today's video. I'm going to share with you guys some strategies around things that I've done and what's worked for me, what hasn't. And I'll kind of reflect on some of that. So let's jump into today's video. We'll kind of dive into it. All right, so what I've decided to do is kind of pull up a screen share of an article that I wrote. And again, I'll leave a link in the description for you guys to check this out. I also have a link at the beginning of this article where I highlight a story post that I wrote. It is actually a very in-depth post. It's almost like reading a short book, as it really totals up to over 20,000 words. And it kind of goes through a lot of the things that I tried and failed with, I didn't put enough energy into. And I've found over the years, the biggest, I think, problem with a lot of entrepreneurs is that there's just so many distractions. It's like once you get into the whole internet marketing space, right? Like you discover one forum, you buy one little mediocre product for say 20 bucks, you're now kind of hooked into this, right? And you might go start doing something, you're working on it, and then nothing really happens. Like after 3 weeks and you're just like, man, I could have gone and worked a job at a McDonald's and within that time you could have been working, and then for a fact that you're gonna get a paycheck out of that after you work that time, right? For that 2 weeks or that 4 weeks, that paycheck is coming because of that work you put in. But the problem with entrepreneurship is that there may be some cases where you might have to work like 2 months, 3 months, maybe even 6 months on something until you actually can see the benefit of that and that you actually get the reward from all that energy and time you put into something. So I kind of want to talk about some of the things that I focused on and ultimately where I put the time, the amount of time I put into it, and whether or not, it was worth it. And then I'll kind of talk a little bit about some of the biggest mistakes I made and kind of alleviate some of the problems that maybe some of you guys could be having. So you'll learn, hey, I don't want to make those mistakes in the future, and I'll kind of leave that towards the end of the video. So I want to use this as a way to kind of share, hey, here's some of the things that I did, here's what worked, here's what didn't, and then I'm going to share with you guys some strategies, again, on what I'm kind of doing now and how I'm alleviating some of the problems I ran into when I was first starting. So the first thing was podcasting, right? This was something I committed about a full year to. I got really excited about it when I started out. I wanted to go out and interview people that were having a lot of success. And I was able to do this, and in fact, I want to say that it wasn't a total failure. I have a blog that a lot of people discovered me through. I was able to build some relationships and learn about a lot of successful people, connect with them, and I even ended up doing some business partnerships with some of those people. But ultimately, the podcast for me didn't end up being a real success, right? I spent a full consistent year on it, producing new episodes, putting out content, I'm trying to reach out to people, doing the interviews. It was like a real time drain, and I was doing this while working a full-time job, might I add. And it ended up being something where I just wasn't really making a lot of money doing it. So it was like, my whole goal with doing all this stuff in the first place was to be able to quit my job and get away from my job and not be working extra time on the side so I could figure all this stuff out. So for some people, I know that this is an avenue you could get into, like someone like Pat Flynn got into this. And he just absolutely talked about how mind-blowing it was and like this big changing experience, how he went and did his podcast, and it ended up being a massive success. So I'm not saying that it is something you're going to go and do and have no success with, but particularly for me, I just couldn't figure out how to actually turn this into something where I was making genuine revenue that I could quit my job over. Now, the next thing was affiliate marketing, right? So this is basically, the idea of this is you find other people that are selling products and you take those products and you go and actually sell them on behalf of someone, right? So let's just say I had a program that I was selling for $297. If you wanted to become an affiliate of my product, you could go and sell that product for me on my behalf, and I would give you a 50% commission. So every time you make a sale, you would earn basically 150 bucks, or like half of 300 bucks more or less. So one of the things that I did when I was running my podcast and I started blogging, I started creating YouTube videos, doing all these things where I was reaching an audience, I knew that I could take products that, more or less other people had put all the time and energy into creating, and I could promote them without, having to create the products myself. So this is a very powerful way that you can make a lot of money online. I would say I've had fairly moderate success with this. I made well into probably about $30,000 with affiliate marketing, and specifically focusing on certain products that I knew were really high converting and were something that I found I could make a lot of money by promoting, and I knew that they wouldn't be getting refunds, the people would be happy with the products I was promoting, so on and so forth. So that's something that I want to say I've had my fair share of failures with, right? I might promote a product or try promoting an offer and then I just don't end up getting any sales, right? So that does happen, and you have to kind of expect that certain products aren't going to convert well. There's a lot of things where maybe a product owner could remove the product. Maybe they could just decide not to support it in the way that they should be. There's just a lot of variables there that you may not be able to control. I would say as a business model, that's probably one of the things that, had I started from the beginning, if I put even more time into it, I think I would have made a lot more money than I have even as of today, doing that model. One of the other things I did was affiliate marketing through websites, right? So this could be building a blog or putting out a YouTube video, and then having affiliate marketing come through sources like Amazon. Amazon has an affiliate program where you can actually earn money every time you promote one of their products. So for example, I actually made a review video where I was showing off this Nintendo 64 USB controller, and you could hook this up and play the old classic Nintendo 64 games through your computer. So I made a whole review video on it, and then I linked to that product. And over time, the video actually went sort of viral. I don't really know why. And what ended up happening was a lot of people would go and buy that controller because of my recommendation, and I would earn money from doing that. So that was something that I've had, again, fairly mediocre success with. I didn't really have as much success doing blogs and websites and trying to refer people, but a lot of the topics I ended up doing sites on, I just don't think were the best fit. And in essence, I made a lot of mistakes. So I think some of the failures were more based on things that I made in terms of my own errors or my own research, or maybe not just spending enough time on them as I should have been. So this is something that if you did want to go out and say build a blog and talk about different coffee makers and all different types of coffee and products and things like that, you found a little niche that you could get into. That is something that can be very profitable, but it's definitely going to take a lot of time when it comes to knowing, hey, this is going to be 5, 6, 7 months out. It's going to take a really long time to actually start having success with it. So some of the other things that I've done was selling online courses, and this is actually one of my favorites. When I first started out, I really wasn't having all that much success, but the thing I liked about this particular model was that I would see a little bit each and every month, and over time this started adding up and adding up and adding up, and I started making more money, and this mainly started with marketplaces. Eventually I moved off to selling on my own site. So if you were to say, for example, sign up on my email list, I'd much prefer to sell the program on my own through my own platform as opposed to sending people to a marketplace like Udemy where they heavily discount my products and services. So this is one that I've kind of had mediocre up and down success with, again, because some of the courses that I've created were basically duds and just didn't end up doing well, and that was mainly due to some of my own faults, like maybe I didn't do enough research, maybe I didn't spend enough time marketing, maybe the quality of the courses wasn't good, and this kind of all came with a learning process, and that's sort of why I wanted to call this video, the title of it is really Failing Forward, right? So some of the mistakes that I made when I first started out with this was I wasn't dressed properly maybe for doing some of my videos that were supposed to be really professional, or I had really poor screen share quality, or my microphone had a hiss in the background because I used a bad microphone. Just different things like that I made mistakes with when I was starting out. Maybe I sounded really monotone. I was like, hey guys, it's John Shea. I just didn't really sound very easy to listen to. It was really hard to hear my voice and actually go through my content and feel oh wow, this is exciting. I really want to learn this stuff. I had to pick that up along the way. I had to kind of make those failures and make those mistakes. But eventually, once I started, figuring a lot of this stuff out and learning from those mistakes, I was actually able to go out and start making higher quality content, putting more energy into my programs, and thus making more money doing it. So this was something I would say I've definitely had success with, but there was a lot of failures to actually get to a point where I was actually able to make a substantial amount of money doing it. So one of the next things I did was obviously selling courses through my own site. And we already kind of talked about that, so I'm not going to kind of go into that more. But that's something I've done fairly well with as well outside of the marketplaces. I've also done a lot with selling on webinars. Now, specifically webinars is another angle where it's like a portion of how you actually promote or advertise online courses. And for me, this was something where I went out in my very first webinar, I was making mistakes. I was so nervous. I didn't know what I was doing to create the slides. I was following these scripts from people and trying to put all this stuff together. And even still today, I still look at like, how can I make it better? How can I make the design look better of the templates? How can I tell a better story in the webinar? How can I make a better offer? All these different things, right, that I had to kind of figure out along the way by doing the webinars over and over and over again and figuring out how can I, just continuously make it better and better and better and get it to a point where I'm going to make more money and have a better, compelling presentation that's actually going to sell people on my product or service, right? So this was, again, something that I initially was able to have some success with, but it did take a long time to kind of get it right, get an audience, and then obviously get it out there. And then beyond that, it was figuring out how do I make this even better for future products. And, I basically had some failures along the way, but ultimately had this as something that definitely made me some money out of all the things that I've done. In fact, it probably made me the most money in the shortest amount of time. And that's why I'm spending a lot more time on this as of 2019 and beyond. So some other things that I did was selling online courses through like more of a traditional product launch. So this is a little bit different than selling a course on my own site or selling it through like marketplace. This was more like you get a big group of affiliates and they all come on board and actually decide to support your launch, and they all promote the product on behalf of you. Similar to affiliate marketing, basically it's the same idea, is that you're the one creating that product and you get a big group of other people to go promote it as an affiliate during a small window of time. So you might say, hey, upcoming in September, we're going to have this launch and it's going to run from the 18th to the 25th, and we're going to have like all this stuff going on, and it's going to be this big craze that happens all within that short span of time. And I've done this many times. I've had different partners doing it, and we've had different scenarios, right? Like I had one launch where the initial launch made us a good amount of money, and there ended up being like not a lot that happened afterwards. Like I made a ton of money in a short span of time, and then it just kind of went dead. I've had another one where it was a huge success. We put a bunch of people on a webinar after, and then we made even more money off of that webinar and basically had a massive success. I've had other scenarios where we did a launch and we ended up needing to make tweaks or modifications or things that need to change during the period, as well as some products that we put out that we thought would work really well and make basically be a huge success, and they ended up being duds. Like they didn't really sell, didn't really get a lot of sales, and just ultimately ended up being something that was kind of a bad product in a sense, or just didn't really win over the market. So I've had many times where that's happened, and that can be a real bummer. So this is kind of a very up and down sort of way to look at making money online. I found that for a lot of times that I've done this, I'm just putting in so much energy and so much time, and it's just almost a lot of stress, right? I'd rather look at more evergreen opportunities where I could have a product that I could continuously sell for literally years on end, as opposed to trying to come up with new ideas and building new sales pages and new content and all this stuff over and over and over again just to kind of appease the people who are all about, ooh, like the new shiny thing, right? So this is something I've tried to kind of move away from because of that fact. But I think if it was something you wanted to consider, it's definitely something you can make quite a bit of money with, as I've done well over $30,000 in revenue doing product launches. Some other things that I've done is creating software. So this was something that it had a huge kind of curve where I knew I had to put a ton of time and energy into building something, and there was a huge risk of this potentially becoming a failure. But the biggest thing that I did was doing a lot of research and knowing that there was a big pain point and a big lack of software that accomplished something that I wanted to create. The other thing I knew was that there were other softwares doing the same thing, but I could do it in a different way that would solve more specific problems. So for example, my software was actually a project management tool, and there's a ton of project management tools out there, so you know that that's something people desire and that they need. But I wanted to make a project management tool that actually was catered to digital marketing agencies. So people that were working with clients, doing web design and SEO and Facebook ads and all the above. And I knew that, if I went and made this, there was somewhat of a niche there that I could get into. And because there were so many agencies and so many project management tools, what if I could kind of combine those two elements and create something? And I was able to launch this through the use of webinars. And initially we actually had quite a bit of success. But this was something, it took me over 6 or 7 months to actually build this software. So I was going into this like working on it day after day after day after day, literally making no money, right? So it would, imagine just going to McDonald's and you're an employee and you're serving people and getting their money and taking their orders and doing all this stuff, and you literally did that for like 6 months and you didn't get a single dime, right? That's kind of what I had to do with this. I had to realize that there was going to be a potential that it could actually fail, and there was also going to be a potential that if I stuck it through and consistently worked on it, I came up with an angle, I did the research, I spent a lot of time reaching out to people, all those things, that this would be something I could put out there and actually have some success with. Another thing that I did was blogging, and this is something I want to kind of say in a way, I don't want to say it was a failure, but in particular, I don't feel that my blogs have specifically made me like a ton of money or have helped me achieve a high level of success. They're almost like this blog here, for example, is more of like a hub where people could learn a little bit more about me and understand what I do. So if someone went and like Googled me and said like, what's this product from John Shea, or who's this John Shea guy? Is he like legit? Like I wanted to have places where I could share my income. I could talk about things that I've done, like story about all the things that I've had success with, I've had failures with, and things that I'm overall working on, right? Like that was kind of the purpose. So overall, I wouldn't call it like entirely a failure, but I've definitely had some issues where when I first started, right, one of the very first blogs I made was literally john-shea.net. So not only did I get a .net, but I had a hyphen in my name, and the name John Shea is so common, like literally if you Google it, there's like some celebrity with that name. So it was like the worst blog, so that was like a total failure. And then I came up with a blog called Voices of Marketing, and that was my podcast. And that was a really good name. I had a really good design, spent a lot of time on it, but like I said, that podcast didn't really kind of work out. It just ended up becoming this like abandoned site that I just don't really use anymore. And eventually I started No Shame Income, which is now kind of focused around the things that I'm doing now. So that just kind of gives you some reflection there of whether or not, how I went about all these things. Email marketing was another thing that kind of ties into everything, right? It ties into marketing courses and affiliate marketing and doing the blog and just all of this, right? So that's something that I've gone through several email service companies, different autoresponders, trying different things out, having issues with certain ones, trying to figure out what's the best one, what works for me. And that's just like, it was a process, right? I had to figure out a lot of that stuff on my own. Another thing that I did was working with clients, right? This has been something I've definitely failed with over time. I've had clients that sucked up a lot of my time, were a pain in the ass to work with, but at the same time, I've had people that paid me literally thousands of dollars, and they're really easy to work with. So it's kind of been very hit or miss. And that's been something that I've had to learn over time. I had to go through those failures. I had to go through those bad clients and go through those people that just weren't really going to be the right fit, right? Like I knew that they were going to suck up all my time. They were going to be the people that I just didn't want to deal with. And that was kind of like part of that whole journey, part of dealing with working with different clients and doing different projects for clients. Let's see. So some other things, I ended up actually building out a couple of local lead generation websites. And a lot of people talked about how amazing this was, right? You go out and you build a website and you get it ranked on Google. And then you find this opportunity where you can go and say, hey, I'm going to, sell you these leads. Like I'm going to go sell these towing leads to a towing company. And I actually was so excited about this. I was like, man, this makes so much sense. There's these guys talking about it and they're having so much success with it. And man, I will tell you, it is probably harder, if not much harder, to actually sell the leads to a business than it is to actually just go to the business and try to offer them services as a marketing company. So the difference between me saying, hey, I have all these phone calls, do you want to take these calls and just pay me for them? I had to go through like a ton of different companies, calling different companies that I'd even been giving calls that were saying, yeah, we're going to pay you. And they would never pay me for the actual calls that I gave them. So it was like, I ran into the scenario where I kind of had to learn and adjust and figure out, okay, who's a better fit for these calls? Who's a better company that I can work with that's actually going to take them and pay me for them and, feel that I'm giving them some value in their business and helping them grow, right? I had a company that I was giving calls to for, I'm kind of on my stupid part, for over 3 months, and they never paid me for a single call. And I probably literally gave them hundreds, if not well over a couple $1,000s in business from towing calls that they were getting from my phone number and my website. So those were kind of like failures I had to go through. I had to learn, I can't just keep giving them calls like they're literally getting free work. I should have cut them off after like week 2 of not paying me, right? But I continued to give it to them, hoping that they would just pay me. And, I kept persisting and being like, hey, we're going to work a deal on this, right? We're going to work a deal. And, it was one of those things where not everything is as it seems. People are going to make all of these things look like they're so easy, but I can guarantee you're going to run into problems. You're going to have failures. I've seen blogs where there's a guy, literally, he has an entire blog. He talks about this one subject and he makes it seem like it's the most magical thing on earth. But I can guarantee you're going to run into problems, just like I did. I ran into some issues. And now I actually do have some people that pay me for these sites as an example. So I was able to kind of figure it out and finally find someone where, hey, I can now make some money with this. But it ultimately ended up being a thing where I did have to go through some failures, right? It wasn't like this straight shot where it was like, do this, 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 and you're just going to make all this money. It just does not work like that when it comes to entrepreneurship. E-commerce, this was another big one that when I started, I was like, you know what? I'm going to go out there and I'm going to figure out how to drop ship products, and I'm going to even buy products, and I'm going to sell them on Amazon. And I had all these motivations. I actually went out and I spent $1,000 on a bunch of clothing, and I listed it all on Amazon, and it all just sat there. Like I didn't know how to sell it. None of it was selling, and I had this big, motivated inspiration. I was like, yeah, all this stuff is going to sell, and I'm going to be able to buy all these products, and it's just Amazon's going to sell everything, and it just didn't work out like that, and this was one I ended up actually passing on because I had put so much time and energy into it, and I felt that I wasn't even that passionate about it. I wasn't that excited about it, and I decided to just move all away from it entirely. But I think for a lot of people, this is something you can have massive success with. I knew people that there was a guy that he actually had patented a mitten for like kids to wear in the wintertime, and he was having massive success on Amazon just selling this one little product, literally a kid's winter mitten. And that was his entire business. He actually ran it as a 9-to-5 business and built the whole thing from ground up, and created his own product and just spent all this time on it, right? So this was something that I think, if you want to get into it, it's very, very popular. And because of that, there's a lot of competition, but it can be done. But I guarantee you, this is definitely one that you're going to run into some failures, whether or not it's running ads, whether or not it's finding offers, finding good products. There's a lot of things that you're going to have to look at. So that's pretty much it. That's a good overall view of everything. My cats decided to join me in the background, clawing up our cat tree there. But anyway, I wanted to kind of conclude this with a couple of tips and things that I've been doing. So the first is I recommend going out and finding an accountability partner. This is someone that basically you could work with to kind of set up goals and having very specific goals on the things that you want to work on. So right now for me, that's YouTube, and that's basically working on selling my online courses. Those are the two main things that I'm working on, and YouTube is just a way to drive and build my audience and get people to learn more about my products and services. And then at the same time, I do have some client work, but most of that I've kind of got on autopilot. I have other people handling a lot of that work for me, and I'm not involved in the day-to-day with most of that stuff. So that's one of the biggest things I would say is getting some kind of accountability partner or being accountable for the work. The next is getting rid of distractions, right? So getting rid of things that are going to distract you, right? Are you subscribed to like 10 different email lists and you're getting bombarded with all kinds of different marketing messages and being told to get this course and this thing and that thing? Are you on Facebook getting served ads constantly, being told same idea? You're getting served with all these different things and all this different stuff. You're just being pitched non-stop from all these different directions. Those would be the two biggest things I would say are really going to help you. And then the third is really just getting consistent with whatever you decide to do and not, kind of giving up after a short span of time. Like as I showed you with a lot of these things, I had to go through that process of kind of failing on the way. I had to figure out, like with email marketing, like, yeah, I got a bunch of emails on my list, but I was sending them like spammy emails, and then I learned from certain marketers that that's not the way I should be doing things. And I had to figure that out and kind of make that failure, make that mistake in order to adjust and correct. So I would say the biggest thing for anybody is if you go out there and you find an accountability partner, you decide what it is that you're going to be doing, whether or not you want to go work with clients, maybe you want to go start an email marketing business, maybe you want to go start an e-commerce business, maybe you want to go do affiliate marketing, maybe you want to start a blog, maybe you want to start a YouTube channel. Whatever it is, whatever you pick, and I don't suggest doing all of those things at once, by the way. Whatever it is you pick, you get consistent and you do those things for an extended period of time. You commit to saying, hey, I'm going to do this for like 3 months. I'm going to go and do YouTube for 3 months, and let's see what happens after that 3 months. Let's see where I'm at. You should be hopefully getting close to 500 subscribers by that point, growing in a positive direction. Right? For me, when I first started YouTube, I was like, doing videos and I had really good content, but I wasn't doing thumbnails. I wasn't optimizing my videos with tags. I wasn't writing good descriptions. And I didn't have like any good branding on my channel. It was like all like default stuff. I didn't have a good logo. All these different things that I wasn't doing, but I was like only doing half of it, right? I was like half in and way out. Like I was basically only doing 20% of what I should have been doing to really focus on growing my channel. So this past year, I went through and I was like, okay, I'm gonna get new branding. I'm gonna do an introduction video. I'm gonna set up different playlists. I'm gonna put better descriptions in my videos. I'm gonna hire a virtual assistant and have them help me edit the videos, and then have them help me with thumbnails. And that way I can focus more time on creating videos just like this one, and that you guys, would obviously have more good content for me, right? So hopefully you found this video helpful. I know I actually made this video way longer than I anticipated to, but hopefully you guys got some value out of this. If you have any questions for me, again, be sure to check out that article and leave me a comment below if you have any questions. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit the bell notification, and I'll be releasing new videos each and every week. Again, thanks for watching, and I will talk to you guys or see you in the next video.